Wednesday, May 3rd on the Just Baseball Show, and it is the mailbag. We answer all of your questions that you left for us on our Instagram at Just Baseball Show and on our Twitter at Just BB Media. We post the graphic before the day starts. We let all the questions roll in, and we pick our 7 favorites. I'm Peter Apple. That's Aram Layton. And one of the questions I had to add, Aram, because it's just about you and it's about a monologue. I'm very excited to get going.
It's more of a request. I don't even think it's a question. It's a request, which I saw that one and I was like, oh man, I don't know if we're there yet, but I'm happy to indulge a little bit and get into that. But yeah, some great questions as always. Always look forward to this because it gives us a really good opportunity to just kind of see what everybody else wants to talk about. And shockingly, a bunch of questions about the Orioles and Cardinals and pitching, and it's like we're just gonna do this every 2 fucking weeks. But it is something that clearly a lot of people are wondering about, and I think it's interesting because we're almost getting to the point where, like, in a month from now, you'll start to have a little bit of a pulse of like who's going to be buyers, who's going to be sellers, whatever it is. And right now it's just still so early that people want to know. So that's the funny recurring question.
It is early, but at the same time, we are 5 weeks into the MLB season. Like, we're 30 games in of a 162 game season. It seems like it's so early because it relatively is when you look at the calendar and it feels like we just started the season. But when you look at the schedule and you think, okay, the trade deadline is in a couple of months. Maybe it's time to start talking about some teams that are in the bottom that could potentially deal some of their superstars, and we have plenty of those questions. I'm excited to get into it, so let's just get into it. The first question of the mailbag: what currently struggling team are you buying stock into to bounce back? Asked by Andrew Glav on Instagram. This is an interesting one because there are a lot of teams that are kind of not doing too hot. Most notably the New York Yankees. How about the Cleveland Guardians are under 500? Houston Astros are still 16-13. The Angels 15-14. The Seattle Mariners are 12-16. The Mets are hovering around 500. The Phillies are at 500. Even teams like the Cardinals 12-17.
Yeah.
The San Diego Padres 16-14. The Dodgers are in first place, but they're 17-13. So there's a lot of really good answers here when you look at the current standings and think to yourself, none of the good teams are actually playing all that well except for the Rays.
Yeah, so I would say, like, for this exercise here, because you highlight it, like with only 30-ish games, like teams that are 3 games over 500, yeah, it's a little bit of a slow start, but at the same time, like, they could rattle off a sweep, and then all of a sudden they're 19-13, and like, all right, they're in the driver's seat. So I think that for this exercise, I would probably just focus on teams that are below 500 that we were expecting to be good, which off the top of my head, like, and just looking at the standings, even like Mariners, Cardinals, I think those are the 2 teams that have most wildly disappointed, quote unquote, this early. The Yankees too, because the Yankees, like, you saw the start that they got off to last year. You figured that might be the case. Maybe it's a good thing that they've started slow. I'm looking across, like, I really think that the Cardinals, the Yankees, and the Mariners are going to get it going. And I know that it looks really ugly for the Yankees right now, and it doesn't look like it's going to get that much better with Judge a little banged up. But I think the Yankees are going to be just fine. I think the Cardinals are going to find a way to turn this thing around, but I'm a little bit less optimistic about them. I think I feel better about the Yankees and the Mariners, but I'll highlight the Yankees just because, not only because they have the best record of those aforementioned 3, their lineup that they're rolling out right now is a joke, and we've talked about that. We don't need to, like, go too deep into that. Even Jack and I talked about it without you the other episode because it's been that bad. But they've got reinforcements coming. Even if Rodon is out for a while, like, I still like what they've got in terms of being able to go get somebody. Hopefully you get Severino back relatively soon. I think he might beat Rodon back at this point, which is crazy. There's a lot of questions there, but there's a lot of different guys that can come back and help them. And I still feel like they're going to find a way to piece together that lineup, and Bader comes back and there's more reinforcements. Like, there's improvements in sight. For other teams, it's like they got to change the way they're playing. And that's a little bit scarier.
You make some sense as a person who watches the Yankees day in and day out. I don't necessarily share your opinions, being optimistic at least about the New York Yankees, but of course that is my fandom. And I can be much more optimistic about teams that I don't have a rooting interest for. And that team is the Seattle Mariners. And while I do technically have a rooting interest for them because I bet on their over win total, I bet on them to win the World Series this season, among other bets, of course, and I have the Braves, but we don't have to go into all that. What I do want to go into is the fact that the start for the Mariners does not make any sense to me because Julio Rodriguez has not gotten going truly yet. Ty France has looked like a shell of himself. Eugenio Suarez has not looked that great either. Teoscar Hernandez has not gotten going at all. Colton Wong at second base, a no-show. JP Crawford, great defensively, has not shown up at the plate. There are a lot of guys in this Mariners lineup that are all hitting poorly. And I just cannot expect that to continue. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then when you look at the rotation's been totally fine. Luis Castillo's been great. Logan Gilbert's been great. George Kirby has been great. Even Marco Gonzalez is giving them quality innings. And the bullpen has been good, not elite. So I look at a Mariners team, and it's not that, they have so many reinforcements coming. It's just a simple fact of there's no way they can continue to play this poorly. And the Cardinals are in that breath, but I have more concerns about the Cardinals' overall starting pitching, their bullpen. I think the lineup is going to continue to bang, but I don't have those concerns with the Mariners. They're just playing like shit. This is just a crap month for them. The Yankees, they're rolling out Willie Calhoun. The Mariners aren't rolling out crazy guys like that. Like Willie Calhoun ain't hitting 5th in the Mariners lineup. Aaron Hicks ain't hitting 7th in the Mariners lineup. Franchy Cordero just got DFA'd. Oswaldo Cabrera, these guys are actual bad baseball players. The Mariners don't have these bad baseball players. They're just playing right now like bad baseball players. So I am buying so much stock in the Mariners. I think they are going to be totally fine.
Yeah.
Cardinals and Yankees, I have a bit more concerns about.
I definitely agree. I mean, we talked about it a little while ago. We went through every single, I think it was on the Friday episode, we went through every single player on the Mariners lineup. And I'm like, that guy's going to hit better. That guy's going to hit better. All of them are going to naturally get better. I think that's 100% true. But I look at this Yankees team and it's the fact that they're 15-15, despite all of this, is pretty nuts. They got a great start from Domingo Germán. Garrett Cole looks like arguably the best pitcher in baseball so far this season. But yeah, I think a lot of it is kind of up in the air because I can't pretend to know when Carlos Rodon's going to come back. I mean, I can't imagine the frustration there. I can't pretend to know when Luis Severino is going to come back. And if he does come back, how is he going to look? Is he going to get hurt again? The reason why I'm not necessarily worried about the Yankees is that they didn't make any insane splashes trade-wise. They've kind of kept their assets. And I think that if things look rough in a month or so, they will find a way. Cashman will upgrade this lineup. And I think it'll actually upgrade a little bit on its own. Volpe continues to look better and better. I think Rizzo is a guy that, is going to hit. Judge will be back soon enough. And DJ LeMahieu, I think that's somebody that's going to make a big difference. But I think Oswaldo Cabrera, you said, bad baseball players. I think Oswaldo is separate from the Franchy Corderos and the Willie Calhouns, but he's been a disaster. He can't be that bad the rest of the year. But I do agree. I think if I'm lining them up in terms of level of concern, and bounce back ability, I'm going Mariners, Yankees, and then the Cardinals. And honestly, I'm not even that out on the Cardinals yet. Nolan
I'm not either.
has a 600 OPS.
Yeah.
That's going to get better. But I would say it's Yankees, Mariners, 1A, 1B, and then the Cardinals. I definitely am. They're in a different boat for me. I'm more concerned about the Cardinals for the same reasons you are. We can paint the picture of a balanced team theoretically with the Mariners, especially. The Yankees have a path to being a balanced team and have the bullpen. The Cardinals have some gaping holes, which we've talked about. So even if the lineup is banging, which it isn't right now, we see what happens when they're not banging. There's so much pressure on those bats to hit. And if they don't really hit, they kind of stink. And that's what they've got to either really hit or answer all the questions that we've been regurgitating about, this Cardinals team. But I'm with you on the Mariners. I'm not worried about them even in the slightest. And they just called up Bryce Miller, who I think should be able to help them at least in some capacity, whether it's as a swingman, spot starter, whatever. They've got more options.
The Cardinals are 10-19. 10-19. Let's move on. Another team that is 16-13, tied with the New York Mets in the National League East, is your Miami Marlins. So
Yeah.
the question is, can Aram put together a monologue for a team that doesn't actually suck? And he means your Miami Marlins. Of course, I just got signed out of my Google Docs document where all the questions are. So let me credit the person who answered
I
or
got it.
asked this question.
William W. Lynch on IG.
Perfect.
So William, I appreciate that. We're not in monologue territory yet. I'm not amped up enough yet. I like what I see. I think it's really awesome. I think the Marlins are off to a great start, all things considered. Talk to me after this Braves series, because this is one that I think will be very definitive. If they get knocked around at home by the Braves again, and which is very possible, then all of a sudden they're back to 500, and it's like, all right, like this is what we kind of expect. This team looks really good, all things considered. You sent a text, like, and this is relatively speaking. You sent a text the other day, like, this Marlins team, like, I'm starting to believe. And I'm like, please don't. But, like, I can see why. Like, this is a much better ball club. You take a team that's pitching centric and you add literally the best hitter through month one since Barry Bonds in 2004 and Luis Arias. Like, that helps. Gene Segura, we talk about guys who can't be worse. Gene Segura might be the worst player in baseball right now.
Do you think, and I wanted to ask you this on the podcast, I keep thinking about this because it's like there are telling things in Major League Baseball. Number one, at the beginning of the season on BetMGM, the Cardinals were minus 115 to win the National League Central. And I scream from the mountaintops, that is the biggest trap of all time. Another telling thing, Gene Segura only got a 2-year, $17 million contract from the Marlins after going to the World Series and being a solid contributor. That at the time told me teams don't believe in the bat anymore, that it just might be over for him. And the Marlins got this great deal on a World Series second baseman. And I'm like, did they? Did they really? And he's been awful.
He's been awful. He's playing third, which is like bizarre in its own sense too. He's barely really played there. They could have just kept Brian Anderson for less. Like it's a weird move. And that said, like he's been bad. I like to give William what he wants here. I am getting cautiously optimistic about this Marlins team because Kim Ng is actually cooking. Like you got to give Kim her like flowers here. Two of the big, and I tweeted this, like two of her 11th hour moves before this season, I think are the reason why they're off to this 16-13 start. Luis Arias, where she pushes the chips forward. We talked about how it's a quote unquote overpay, but you overpay when you have to sometimes if you think it's going to make a difference, and look what it's done, right? I don't think anyone gives a crap about the prospects included when Arias is literally the reason why you're over 500 and has been one of the best hitters in baseball. And then how about the JJ Bleday for AJ Puck deal?
Unbelievable.
Like that takes some guts because you're trading, you're basically admitting, hey, and it wasn't her, but still organizationally, you're admitting, hey, we totally fucked up on this pick. Our can't miss first round pick that we've been marketing the hell out of over the last couple of years. We're going to swap him for a reliever who's often injured. But they looked at it in a vacuum and said, this makes us better. AJ Puck's been one of the best relievers in baseball this year. 5 saves already. He's their closer. 12 innings, a .75 ERA. He looks fantastic. Those two guys alone have played a huge part in their success. So, we've talked about Kim and kind of like this being her definitive year to prove that she can, be at the helm for the foreseeable future and help this Marlins team, build success here. You got to give her credit. Like those two moves were huge and a big reason why they've been successful. And then I think they got to start playing Yuli Gurriel. Yuli Gurriel has been great. He's hitting 306, 358, 449. He's 39 years old, but we know what he's been his whole career. Last year was a bad one, but then he finished strong in the postseason. I wonder how far away they are from eating into Gene Segura's at bats with Yuli Gurriel. I've heard they're already starting to play him in the outfield a little bit. Like there's some good moves that Kim has made, and you got to give her credit.
No, you're putting Yuli in the outfield?
They might.
No, don't do that.
Might.
Imagine an outfield defense of Jazz and Yuli out there. I mean,
I don't care. I'm here. I'm here for it, man. If you can hit, I'm in. That's what they need. But I think the best answer is to get Yuli some reps at third, split some time in the DH. disguise him in right field or left field if you can, and just pray the ball doesn't go out there. Like, they've put Garrett Cooper out there. Could he be worse than that?
No, he wouldn't be worse than that. That dude actually can't move. But the reason I sent that text and I said, Aram, I'm kind of starting to believe in the Miami Marlins. And it's not to the belief like, oh, they're going to make this deep postseason run and they're finally here. No, that's not what I mean. But what I believe in is that the process is starting to work. Like, you're starting to see it. The offense isn't some terrible collection of randos anymore. Like, John Birdie, I like. Garrett
He's
Cooper, I
great.
like.
I love John Birdie.
Jorge Soler can bang. Luis Ariz doesn't get out. Jazz Chisholm, he still strikes out too much for my liking, but you can't deny the incredible talent of the center fielder. And you just go around the diamond, you're like, they've got some guys like sit Jacob Stallings. He is not a major league catcher, but Nick Fortes is. Like, Nick Fortes has been one of the best defensive catchers in the entire sport, and he can hit around a little bit, but as long as he's good defensively, which Jacob Stallings isn't, that's a plus there. Like, Yankee fans want to get rid of Jose Trevino. You can't get rid of Jose Trevino. No. The defense is way too good. Nick Fortes ranks higher in a lot of catching metrics. Like, if you look at Baseball Prospectus, who I think has the best catching metrics, he's number 2 to Jonah Heim. He has been a stud. Like, Sandy is that guy still. I know he's, off to this kind of weird start, but he's going to bounce back. I'm not worried about him. Edward, when he throws strikes, is disgusting. Jesus Luzardo is that guy. And the bullpen, Dylan Floro, AJ Puck, I'm kind of excited.
Huascar Brazoban, he's been awesome. Huascar Brazoban's been awesome. No, the bullpen kind of looks like they've got it together a little bit. Like, it seems like it's good enough. It's better than last year. And they're doing this without Trevor Rogers now, without Johnny Cueto, who was going to be an important depth arm for them. And they're about to get, Joey Wendell back. We're not talking about the sexiest additions, but those are guys that help.
Major league players, and they're good.
They help. They're decent players. Their bodies. So
their bodies.
I'm really interested to see what they do. The Edward Cabrera experience is one that, dude, I would have put a lot of money, like live bet, that it was going to be a blow up last start. He finishes with 12 Ks. Like, he is a roller coaster. But that said, like, the upside of this rotation, we've talked about it. We're seeing flashes of it. So this team's going to be volatile, but I think we're about 2 weeks away from a positive Aram rant if they play well over the next 2 weeks.
All right, now we got a great question. Do you think there's a realistic shot at Dylan Cease being dealt? And if so, which teams do you think would be interested? Asked by KleineScroder on Twitter. I don't want to mispronounce that Twitter handle, but of course you can find all the different Twitter handles in the episode description. I don't know. Like, I hate to say I don't have a definitive answer for this question. We can talk through it. I was hoping maybe you'd go through Dylan Cease's contract details for us. Maybe see where he is in arbitration, extensions, all that good stuff. But the White Sox, like, we didn't include them in contenders that are going to bounce back. The Chicago White Sox at this point are 8-21. The only teams with 8 or less wins are the Chicago White Sox, the Kansas City Royals, the Oakland A's. End of list. That is dreadful. Yeah. And the rebuild didn't work, obviously. This was supposed to be starting the year where they're getting all these guys and they're supposed to be really good. Dylan Cease could get a franchise-changing haul.
Yep.
So there's a part of me that says, if the White Sox continue to bottom out, and I don't really see the shining light in the distance with this team, Michael Kopech has the worst xERA in all of baseball. Lucas Giolito might just be a 4 or 5 guy in the ERA department. Dylan Cease, Tim Anderson, these are incredibly quality assets that you can cash in on and say, you know what? We made a mistake. We have to rebuild again, and we have to clean house. And Dylan Cease, we talk about what a Sandy deal could get. A Dylan Cease deal would shock the league.
Yeah.
Is it possible? And my answer is I don't know, because he's so valuable and he's still young. And even if the White Sox blow up everybody, don't they say, well, we still have to keep Dylan Cease to sell tickets?
So
right?
I have a question. I have a question for you. Are the White Sox going to be good within 3 years?
No, their farm system, you could say it better than I, but they're terrible.
So, second question. Would the White Sox pay Dylan Cease 200 and whatever $million?
Well, they did give Andrew Benintendi the largest contract in their franchise history at about $100 million.
Was it like,
So
what was it
no,
exactly? It was like 70?
or yeah, something like that. They've never
Okay.
given out a 9-figure deal. Jack told us that.
They've never given out
no,
a 9-figure deal. And then are they going to double that? No
no,
shot. So
no shot.
he's a Boris client. I think the writing's on the wall. And if you're Dylan Cease, you want to play the rest of your career in that disaster over there? Like, I think he's
too
gone.
mean? Are we being too mean, or are we not being mean
Jerry,
enough?
I don't think we're being mean enough, and I think White Sox fans would tell you that. I mean, that monologue that on local White Sox radio,
One of the greatest calls of all time.
Unbelievable, well informed, and hilarious. But I'm looking at this team, and you just kind of went through it. All of their assets, like I think you obviously have Luis Robert locked up, like that's a building block. Eloy Jimenez, like you got to kind of hold on to him, because like I don't think his value is that high. You trade him, you're not getting much for him. You're not getting much for Kopech. You're not getting anything for Clevenger. You're not getting much for Lance Lynn, if anything at all. And Lucas Giolito is about to be a free agent, so his value is pretty much useless too. Yeah. You got Tim Anderson for 1.5 years, which should still get you a pretty nice return. But the only guy that's getting you a franchise-altering return is Dylan Cease. And I think it's the White Sox start to look in the mirror and realize, hey, this is not going to get better anytime soon. I think they might have to cash in their most valuable chip here. And I don't know if it's this year. I don't know if it's next year. I don't know if it's at the deadline. I don't know if it's in the offseason. But I think they'd be nuts not to trade Dylan Cease. And I think they're already starting to realize that it's probably going to be the case, especially with him being a Scott Boras client. So Cease has 2 years of control after this one. So you could say 2 and change. It's 2.5 if he's traded at the deadline. That's extremely valuable. They could get a franchise-altering return there. You look at like the Cardinals and what they could put together. You look at the Orioles, though I know it's not their standard practice, and what they could put together. Like some of these teams out there, the Dodgers could put together franchise-altering packages. We saw Trey Turner and Max Scherzer packaged together. What if the White Sox packaged Cease and Tim Anderson to the Dodgers and just bail the Dodgers out again? Like that's something that could happen. So I think they'd be nuts not to trade him, to be honest, because you're not winning with Dylan Cease. You're just not. It's not happening.
It's not happening. So let's do some mock trades. Why not? Why not us? Let's do some mock trades for Dylan Cease. So you mentioned 3 teams that could definitely be in the mix: St. Louis Cardinals, the Baltimore Orioles, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Who else do you think could possibly be in the mix there for a guy like Dylan Cease? Now, when I rack my brain and I think about some of the teams that could potentially do it, I wonder, and this is kind of a bad answer, but it was on kind of the top of my mind and I was thinking about it. The Angels are playing good baseball. They are. Like, we make fun of them sometimes because it's always, if not now, when. This is the time. Ohtani's about to be a free agent, right? Mike Trout ain't getting any younger. And they have the lineup. And they have a decent starting pitching staff, but a lot of them are lefties. It would be nice to slot in one of the best right-handed pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. So they're a team I thought of that I think we could possibly workshop. The Cardinals are definitely that team. I go through the teams like the Astros. Luis Garcia got removed from his last game with elbow discomfort. We're hoping he's going to be okay, but that's not good. Jose Urquidy was just put on the shelf. You already lost Justin Verlander, right? So the rotation as we sit here today is Framber, Christian Javier. Then what?
Yeah.
Right? We saw Brandon Bielak come in, give them 4 innings. Okay, that's not a guy who's starting every 5th day, with all due respect to him. Like, credit to him. I think he was on a bus from Reno and just hopped on and was
Yeah.
pitching. Like, good for him. That's awesome. But I
Yeah.
don't think he's the fourth starter for them right now. So
No.
the Astros are a team. The Angels are a team that I'm looking at.
How about the Tampa Bay Rays?
Fuck.
Yeah. The Rays have been in conversations for some of these big deals and just haven't quite pushed it across the finish line. I think
Imagine
they
that
look at
slider with the Rays.
that's what I'm saying. And they look at everything from an asset management perspective, right? Almost like treating it like a private equity firm. And like if they feel like they're overpaying, they won't overpay. But I think in this spot, they could beat a lot of packages. And they've got so many guys and they have such a log jam right now organizationally. Curtis Mead is just sitting there in AAA. Kyle Manzardo is sitting there in AAA. Those are two big league ready bats. And if you're the White Sox, like the White Sox can't really handle a full tear down. Like trading Dylan Cease for a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds, that's going to look real bad. It's not going to look too much better that you're trading them for AAA guys, but at least those guys will be on the opening day roster next year. And if they play, you're expediting this rebuild. So like something around, I don't know if they trade Mead because they were talking about a pre-arb deal with him, but obviously if Dylan Cease is on the table, now you look at things differently. But Mead and Manzardo are two of the best position player prospects in the game. And those are two guys that'll be big league ready pretty much tomorrow. You could plug them in the lineup tomorrow. So like I could see them building a package around that with some of the other arms they have and pushing this thing forward. We talked about the injuries that they've dealt with Springs hurt. Obviously the inconsistency of Glasnow and Boz and unavailability there. I assume they're not going to pay Glasnow ultimately. So I mean that's money that's going to be opening up for them too. So they can feel pretty good about maybe leveraging those 2.5 years and trying to extend Cease as they've started to look like they're going to spend a little bit more money when the time is right. The Rays could put together a hell of a package, dude. And that would be the way to make their statement here and say, yeah, I know we're off to a great start and maybe this is in the midseason. I know we're in first place. Now you're going to be fearing us as the World Series favorite. I would love to see that.
I would absolutely love to see that. So of the teams that we named, the Rays, the Orioles, the Astros, the Angels, the Cardinals, and the Dodgers, right? Those were, I think, the main six that we talked about. Who do you think makes the most sense? Let's do this. So we have those 6 teams. Let's knock it down to our 3 favorites and then come up with a trade.
Okay.
So we'll go through them again. I think the Dodgers have to be in that top 3.
I agree. And I think the Rays do. I really do.
Okay. So we'll do the Rays. So then Cardinals, Astros, Angels, and Orioles.
So I hear you on the Astros from a like team perspective, of course, like that makes so much sense. I think they might not have the assets.
Okay, fair enough.
So that I think they'd be spread way too thin trying to put that deal together. Like they'd get outbid for sure.
Fair enough.
So
okay.
I think we can eliminate them.
Down to 3. Cardinals, Orioles, Angels.
Angels are going to be hard pressed to make a Dylan Cease package.
Joe Adell.
They've got Joe Adell, Edgar Caro, I love, and that's a crown jewel like prospect. You could start a package there, but I don't think Adell and him are going to get it done. They could slap something together. They'd get outbid by the Dodgers and the Rays. I think the Cardinal, like it's against their practice, but hell, man, if you're just trying to climb back into the thick of things and you can go get Dylan Cease, like maybe this will be what pushes John Mozeliak to like grow a set of nuts and do something. I think I got my votes on the Cardinals because we know what they've got prospect wise. They don't need to they were in on Juan Soto. Like they've had the interest to make the splash, but again, another very calculated team that's only going to make the splash when it makes a lot of sense for them. They were in on Sean Murphy, but then drew the line. I think this could be where they're like, all right. And that was when they were really good. They're off to a slow start now, a little bit more urgency. They could put together a package without Jordan Walker and I think get Dylan Cease with the prospects that they have.
Okay. Cardinals, Rays, Dodgers. Now we shorten the list because we see what type of package they would get. So if we go back to that deal with a Max Scherzer and Trey Turner to the Dodgers, they had to give up Josiah Gray, Hyber Ruiz, Who else was in that deal? It was mostly centered around them.
Those were the two crown jewels, and then he had a couple other fillers in that deal. But it was really Ruiz and I mean two top 50 prospects there that were big league ready. So
Okay. But Dylan Cease, even if he's not included with Tim Anderson, those guys were free agents after the year. So let's just say what it's going to take is at least two top 50 prospects and then two fillers to get a Dylan Cease. I think that's a fair deal for the Chicago White Sox. Two top 50 is awesome.
Yeah.
So for the Cardinals, it would probably have to center around who? Mason Wynn, potentially, and Matthew Liberatore. All right. Mason Wynn and Matthew Liberatore.
Like those are like just outside the top 50, but like it's, then you throw in a third guy that's of higher value, right? So then instead you add Ivan Herrera, who I think they'd be very interested in because they need help at catcher too. They don't have anybody coming up. And Yasmani Grandal, like that's not helping you right now. So Ivan Herrera and then a filler.
It's so funny. The Cardinals could easily do that.
And not even give a shit.
Yeah,
like,
they
not
could
even
easily
blink.
do that.
Yet here we are. Like Tink Hence, you could include in that too. Like I maybe the White Sox have interest in Tink Hence. That's the craziest part. Pick several of the aforementioned guys here: Mason Wynn, Tink Hence, Gordon Graceffo, Matthew Liberatore, Cooper Jerpy, Ivan Herrera. Like they can trade two of those arms.
They can trade three.
I would prefer to keep Hence, but if the White Sox want Hence, okay, take Hence.
We're getting Dylan.
I think Liberatore makes more sense because you can plug him right into your rotation again, expedite this rebuild. So Libby, Wynn, and Ivan Herrera, and then another piece, like they don't blink, and that's a good package.
That is a good package. All right, Los Angeles Dodgers. It's gonna have to be either Gavin Stone or Bobby Miller.
Yeah.
Then we're probably looking at Andy Pages.
Yep.
We might be looking at Michael Busch. So who would you rather give up, Stone or Miller? Which is a loaded question.
Woo.
Woo.
I would say Miller. Just
Miller.
Because of the shoulder discomfort, a little bit of inconsistency there. Like Stone is a safer bet. White Sox go with the upside. They get their kind of like second Kopech. Good luck. Bobby Miller. So I'd go Bobby Miller, Michael Busch, and Andy Pages. I mean, that's a good package too.
Great package.
Yeah.
And then another piece. They got to throw in another guy.
Piece. Yeah. Throw in River Ryan. I actually really like River Ryan.
River Ryan. That's a great name, a marketable name. We'll sell tickets in the south side of Chicago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everyone's going to be lining up to see River Ryan.
All right.
I wish Jack was here.
I do too. So, the Tampa Bay Rays, they could do something and not even feel it. And the White Sox, they should be saying we need either Taj Bradley or Shane Baz. Right?
Yeah. They should.
Like they need that.
They should.
And the Rays could easily do that.
The Rays, I think, the Rays could trade Baz and not. Let me ask you: would you rather trade Baz or Bradley? You've got to see Bradley now at the big league level. I know Baz is awesome, but we've seen kind of the injury history. They're very similar profiles. Bradley's obviously very young, much younger. They're kind of similar to each other.
They are very similar.
Sans the injury history. So you're taking a younger, less injured, but then Baz, I think, is a little bit more upside just with the quality of stuff. It's just might be a slight notch above.
That's what I'm saying. If I just would like to keep Shane Baz. Like, I think Shane Baz is the fucking truth. Like, I think he's in the same breath as a Grayson Rodriguez when healthy. Like, one of the best overall pitching prospects in baseball. He absolutely was. So we'll give Taj Bradley, who's still an amazing pitching prospect. Like, taking Shane Baz over Taj Bradley is not,
The only world where I'm trading either of those guys is if I'm getting a Dylan Cease too. Like,
exactly.
If I'm getting, so there you go.
Shane Baz. Or no, sorry. We're trading Taj Bradley.
Okay.
Manzardo. You can't also throw Mead in there.
No, not if you're getting Bradley. No way.
So Bradley, Manzardo, and then who? You got to throw in a good piece.
Because they have Carson Williams, who is a top 50 guy for us at Just Baseball. Junior Caminero, I would not trade for anything right now. That guy's hitting 400 with 7 pumps.
Now is when you trade him, though, and he's going to suck on the White Sox. He's going to suck on the White Sox.
I mean, they got him for Tobias Myers straight up. So, um, mm, that's going to be the highest price right there. Rays fans will actually block us if we trade Taj Bradley, Kyle Manzardo, and Junior Caminero. Like never listen to the show again. I'm telling you.
They're getting Dylan Cease.
I think swap Carson Williams for Manzardo.
Okay. So Carson Williams, Taj Bradley, and who?
Junior Caminero.
Oh,
That's a
all
fun
right.
haul.
I want to hear on YouTube. Leave us some comments if these trades are we out of our mind.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
White
think we
Sox
are.
fans, which ones do you like the most? And also, if you hate them all, like which it's also very possible. That's what ends up happening. Rays fans, no way I do that. White Sox fans, not enough on any of those. Like, and it's just like, all right, this is why trades never happen. Like this is why. So, I would say these packages are like that changes a lot for the White Sox. It does, and I know it sucks to lose Cease, but you ain't winning with Dylan Cease.
So, speaking about a lot of players, trading players, a lot of people listen to our podcast to get fantasy baseball advice. And we've partnered with Sorare, which is the best fantasy app. I mean, it's just so much fun. You're consistently building your fantasy team throughout the season. And I got to toss it over to my guy, Aram, because he has been absolutely in the weeds of Sorare and having so much fun, probably spending more money than you need to, but it's so much fun that you're getting all the players and you're winning. Give us an update on your Sorare team.
Yeah, so I've got my free team, which is cooking. That's the team that you can draft for free with the link in our podcast description. You put it together, and then as you enter competitions, you can win cards of actual value monetarily, or you win cards that are also like part of that free designation, the common cards, and you add them to your lineup and keep reinforcing it and keep reinforcing it. So my common lineup is pretty loaded. It's getting to the point now where I've got like tough decisions to make because I'm looking across my lineup and, like I've got Acuna, but I've also got Corbin Carroll. So now it's at the point, like before it was just, I would pick the best player and put him in my lineup. Now it's like, okay, I got to figure out the matchups a little bit. So for the common lineup, like I encourage everyone to go try it because you can pick your players. Remember, keeping in mind that you're looking at guys for the entire course of the season. So, you don't just want guys that are off to a great start that you might not think it's sustainable. You also just want to pick good players that you think will be good all year. So for this week, I've got Shohei Ohtani on the bump. That's always going to go well. Albert Alzolay has been my reliever. That's been awesome. Bregman's been disappointing me at third. I'm waiting to get like a third baseman update. Like to basically, hopefully my next reward is a third baseman. I just have not been getting one. Lindor's been unbelievable at short. And Acuna has been unreal in the outfield. Corbin Carroll is like my flex, and then Sonny Gray's my pitcher flex. So I'm in really good shape there. And then for those that want to like spend a few bucks and play in the limited competitions, which is with those limited cards, you can get them for pretty cheap. They have bundles for like $40 where you can get 4 or 5 cards. That's where I got Arias, Ashcraft, Pascantino, and put those guys into my team. I'm trying to ball on a budget with the limited team and earn my rewards and just keep getting limited cards. I got hosed with an Austin Gomber reward. Thanks a lot, so rare. But no, they've also hit me up with some good rewards as well. I need to upgrade my flex. Last week I was talking to Jack about that. I picked up Jack Sawinski for $2, which was a great pickup, and he's been helping me big time. But I want to upgrade one more like bat and one more pitcher. And I'm trying to find like an underrated pitcher to pick up that people aren't totally on. Because remember, it's like a market. So like who are people like maybe still overlooking a little bit that I could scoop up on the mound for Sorare? Because my team is like, I just missed an Ethereum reward. So like if I can upgrade this team a little bit, like I can actually win cash or tickets or VIP experiences. And that's like all the things that you can win here on Sorare. I need like a slight upgrade in my rotation right now. Because Ashcraft is good in the right matchup, but like I need another arm that I can pick on because sometimes they aren't pitching in that week competition too. Because it's 3-day competitions.
So I really like these young pitchers for the Guardians, Logan Allen and Tanner Bybee, friend of the program. I think both of them are very solid pickups because they're still really young, but they just look like they're, from the Cleveland pitching lab, where these guys who just have great pitchability but didn't have great stuff. But now the stuff looks great. Like Logan Allen can put the ball wherever he wants.
Yeah.
Tanner Bybee has multiple plus pitches. I think those guys, like, not everyone has come around to them yet, but they're like some of the guys who are keeping the Guardians in check with no Tristan McKenzie, Cal Quantrill struggling more than, in previous years. And Shane Bieber has been good, but not amazing. And it's like the guys at the bottom, Zach Plesac continues to get bombed. I don't know why they would keep him in the rotation over these two guys. So I would take a strong look at Allen or Bybee.
You got a vet, underrated vet.
Underrated.
Because I love Allen and Bybee. I think they're going to be a big part of what they're doing right now. Like I definitely think those guys are worth a watch. I think they still got to be added in. Since they're new guys, they come in the next drop. So I love those guys. Like, are you buying what Braxton Garrett is selling right now? He's got like a 2.25.
Yeah, yes.
But he's not gonna. Is he gonna win me money? No.
Is Kikuchi expensive of the Blue Jays? He's been nails.
No, I don't think so. Let me see.
He's been nails.
Kikuchi is cheap.
Yeah,
that might be the pickup.
I think that's the pickup.
For like $5,
dude. I mean, Alek Manoah has been one of baseball's worst pitchers so far this season. Jose Barrios had a good stretch and then had a bad start against the Red Sox. Kevin Gausman is still doing his thing. Bassett is up and down, but Kikuchi's been the second best pitcher in that rotation.
And I want guys that can give me flashes because sure, if a guy gets bombed, he gets bombed. I lose that competition that week. But the beautiful thing is I can just do it again in 3 days. But Kikuchi has flashes. I want guys that can give me 10 Ks or 8 or 9 Ks, and when they're locked in and win me a competition, Kikuchi could be that guy. So that might be my pickup for $6 or whatever it is. I think it's $5-6. That might be my new addition to my limited team. My free team is so much better, but it's crazy. You see it on paper, but my limited team has finished higher on several occasions. And we talked about my all grinder team of Yandy Diaz, Luis Arias, Alex Verdugo, and Vinny Pasquantino. That shows you I picked those guys up early for a couple bucks. So if you do want to kind of dip your toes in the limited competitions, if you know what you're doing and you have some undervalued players you you can put together a pretty good team for $15. But again, you can do it for free with the link in our podcast description.
Again, go draft your team on Sorare. It's such a blast. The link is in our podcast description. Okay, moving on. And this will be kind of a shorter one, but I had to add it because, of course, we debate over what the stats are telling us, what they aren't. And I kind of wanted to talk about a specific player. So the question is, who is the definition of my eyes say against the stats? For me as a Giants fan, it's J.D. Davis. His stats aren't the greatest, but wanting him on the field and at the plate, we would be around 2 wins without him, asked by Lil DJ 227. And this is a guy who I go back and forth on because I understand the advanced analytics argument. But the more I watch him, the more I start to disagree. And that player is Ozzie Albies with the Atlanta Braves. He's a guy who
this podcast has had an Ozzie Albies roller coaster.
Roller coaster. You know what? He is fucking good, and I don't care who knows it. For example, Aram. He's in the first percentile of outside above average and the first percentile of arm strength. That's bullshit. He's not the worst defender. That is a fake stat. I love outs above average, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about because Ozzie Albies, through my eyes, is one of the best defensive second basemen in the sport. Yes, he walks at a 5% rate, so his WRC plus isn't going to look that good. He has a 286 on base percentage. Yeah, he doesn't walk, but you know what he does do? Hit tanks. He's got 7 bombs. He's got 3 doubles. He doesn't have a stolen base yet, which I don't really understand, but he will. At second base, if my second baseman, he will. He's going to get 30. If my second baseman can hit 20 to 25 bombs, steal 15 bags, hit 30 doubles, and his expected batting average is even 270. It's not the 243 it is now. He is way better than a lot of people want to give him credit for. Yeah. And you forget, he's 26 years old. He's not this 37-year-old.
I'm with you on this one. I know he's getting on base at a 286 clip, but I find it hard to believe that he is a replacement level player right
He's
now.
way better than that.
Because in the eyes of F4, he's 0.0. If
That
anything,
doesn't
he's
make
closer to
sense.
0. Negative 0.1. I think he's closer to that. I don't understand that. I'm with you on that. Like I understand his WRC plus is 97 right now. These 7 home runs in 29 games. I feel like such a boomer right now. He's driven in 23 runs. Like he's driven in 23 like that. I really want to know that if you swapped out Ozzy Albies for replacement level second baseman, are the Braves at the same exact record? I don't think so.
I don't think
Like
so.
I don't think so. So I'm with you on that one. I can back that. I can back
Okay.
that.
He's good. He's not
Yeah,
amazing, but he's way
he's
better than
good.
like a regular ass player. He ain't no regular ass player.
Yeah. No, I agree. And mine's kind of from in the same breath, because like the guys put up power numbers, but like obviously the advanced numbers are gonna kind of hate him. I'm kind of just buying in. I know he's off to a great start, but I'm buying into like Patrick Wisdom in terms of like him sustainably being a good baseball player.
Yeah.
I think he just bucks the trend of. So you look at his stats and you say his success is unsustainable, right? You look at 2021. He hits 28 home runs for the Cubs, strikes out 41% of the time. We're all prepared for 2022 where he's going to be, just kind of fall off a cliff and not hit enough. Took a step back, but he still put up a 104 WRC plus. He was a 1-win player in that step back, struck out 34% of the time, still hit 25 home runs, played all over as well. He's not a great defender, but at least he can play a bunch of different spots. So far this year, 26 games, he's hit 10 home runs. He's already at a 1.1 F4, and he's playing all over the diamond. He's going to strike out a shitload. He might lead the league in strikeouts, and he doesn't really walk to hedge it. So it's a really bizarre profile. It's like 240. He might not get on base that much, but he's going to slug 550. And I think there's something to be said about that with some positional versatility. He steals a few bags. Like, I think we keep looking at it and saying, oh, yeah, well, how long is it going to last? Well, we're heading on like 250 games now of him being a solid big league power bat. It's weird. I don't get it. Like, it's a weird profile. But at this point, it's like, how can we deny what he's doing? This is almost, 60 home runs over his last 200 and something games. Like, this guy's just hit a bunch of homers. Actually, I think it's closer to 70 home runs. Like, this dude's just hitting bombs. I think you got to give him credit. Like, he's an everyday player.
I love it because like I see Patrick Wisdom in the lineup every day. I'm like, is he that good? And then I watch Cubs games and like he hits a bomb. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like Jack and I were even talking about it on a previous podcast. We were like, if he has 3 separate 2-week stretches of hitting like 7 home runs, which he does, it seems like at least 3 times a year, then he sprinkles in some more home runs. We're looking at a 30 home run guy. Like if you hit 30 home runs, I kind of want you on my team.
I like that's kind of what I'm saying here. So the last 3 seasons or I guess 2 seasons in the start of this year, 113 WRC plus. He's slugging 481. Yeah, he's punching out 37% of the time, but he's been above replacement level player. He's got a 5 F4. Like, it's pretty fine. Like, I'll take that. So it's a decent player. He's going to run into baseballs. I like Pat Wisdom. I think he's a part of what the Cubs are doing here. That's not a guy I want to cast aside. Like, he's better than Mancini. He's better than Hosmer. Like, that's a guy that should be in the lineup every day.
I agree. All right, let's move on to the next question. So, as a Yankees fan, Monday's loss against the Guardians is a loss that is going to sting for a very, very long time. If this team continues to play at a level they are now, a double-A club at best, in parentheses, and continue to roll out IKF, Aaron Hicks, and Willie Calhoun in the same lineup every single day to the deadline, do you think the Yankees will be buyers or stay put? If you think they buy, what are some realistic trade packages? Asked by Chase BELCAK on Instagram. My first point to that is comparing them to a double-A club is disrespectful. They are the Savannah Bananas, except they aren't dancing. Double-A at least have players. These aren't players that we're looking at right now. The Yankees, this past stretch, has been some of the worst Yankees baseball I have watched. Do you know, and I was looking at splits this morning, Arm, do you know what the Yankees WRC plus is against right-handed pitchers in the last 2 weeks? I know it's like a weird,
I mean, it's
sample
pretty
size.
relevant stat, though. It's what is their WRC plus against the pitcher that they're going to see the most, a right-hander, over the last 2 weeks. I'm going to assume it's ass. I'm going to assume it's 80.
8.
Wait. What's the slash line?
It's like 118, 219, like 170. It has been
WRC plus against righties over the last 2 weeks.
Yes. Make
That's
sure I'm not
100%.
on crack. Make sure, because when I was looking at it this morning, I queued it up and I thought I saw 8.
All right. Somebody listening out there, please make sure my friend Peter's not losing his mind over here, because I don't believe him. Like, I believe you, but I don't believe you. You know what I'm saying?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the roster. I'm going to throw it over to you for your feedback, and then I'm going to redo the queue and see if I didn't see something that just made me so upset, because I'm watching a team that has an 8 WRC plus. This lineup, Aram Layton, this New York Yankees lineup, they have a couple of good players. Anthony Rizzo is great. Gleyber Torres is pretty good. DJ LeMahieu is pretty good. That's it. Aaron Judge is injured right now. So the current lineup as we sit here today, and this is why I understand Yankee fans when they're so upset. I saw this hilarious tweet on my timeline that when Harrison Bader returns from injury, and it was just a meme of Chris Paul hits a 3 from deep to cut down a 42-point lead. That was a perfect way to describe it, because it has been terrible. Kyle Higashioka is not a major league catcher. Like, you go through Oswaldo Cabrera, cannot hit. Willie Calhoun should not be on a major league roster. Franchi Cordero is already not on a major league roster. Oswaldo Cabrera, good young player. But at the end of the day, 38 WRC plus. And Aaron Hicks is quite possibly the worst overall player in the entire league.
How does he still have a job?
He has a 10 WRC plus. And what I don't understand is why they keep shoving this lineup in our face. I understand that you have injuries, but at the same time, can you grab anybody else?
Yeah,
like anyone, not the worst overall players. And I keep saying, I'm going to keep giving Brian Cashman a pass. They've been injured. I'm going to keep giving Aaron Boone a pass because they keep getting injured. This is just what the Yankees are. Injured. Their whole team is going to be injured for the rest of time. It's like we've been doing this podcast now for multiple seasons. What is the main point we always talk about? Yankees are going to get guys back. They're just injured right now. That's the entire. The last World Series I saw was 2009. Yeah. Like, as a 25-year-old Yankee fan, I've seen one that I remember. We have not been that good for a while. Like, we've been good. We've gotten to an ALCS and then just gotten absolutely trounced by the Astros. Year in, year out, never had a chance. And if we face the Mariners or the Blue Jays in that series, I don't think we win. I've stood on that fact. So it's like, yes, is it not Aaron Boone's total fault? Like, am I fire the manager? No, because he doesn't have his players. Is it Brian Cashman's fault? Like, those, for lack of a better word, idiots in the lineup, he puts them there. Aaron Boone puts them there. These are guys that they acquired. They thought Willie Calhoun had something. They thought Franchi Cordero had something. This is objectively, and when you're saying they're going to bounce back, yeah, in 3 months when they get their players back, and then let's see if they're great coming off injury, which is more than likely that they won't be as amazing as they were. The bullpen is blown up. Clay Holmes is not nearly the same guy. Wandy Peralta gets outs, but Michael King is the only guy I rely on in the pen. Garrett Cole is 5-0 in his 5 starts. Without Garrett Cole, they are 10-15. Aaron Judge is by far the best hitter in this lineup. He's the only guy that teams are actually game planning around. And when he's not in the lineup, it's the Savannah Bananas without the dancing. End of rant.
I love it. That was very good. I will tell you though, I think about you every single time they put the lineup out. I'm like, bro, it's one thing to be a Marlins.
It's embarrassing.
It's one thing to be a Marlins fan and see those lineups, because it's that's kind of the status quo. You mentioned, not winning a World Series since 2009, minus the 2020 Mickey Mouse season. which I will not say when Walker's on the podcast, by the way, minus the 2020 Mickey Mouse season. Like the Marlins have not finished over 500 since 2009. So like that's a lineup that you associate with like, oh, bad team sitting on their hands. It's the New York fucking Yankees. Like it's a joke. I'll ask you, are you at the point where you would be excited about a Cole Calhoun debut? Because that is somebody that the Yankees picked up.
He's going to be fucking horrible. Like I already know he's going to be terrible because he's
going to suck
DFA'd by these random teams. Like,
yeah.
Like Garrett Cole is going to be a free agent soon. He's going to opt out. What are the Yankees going to give him a fucking like $1 trillion because he deserves it? Some other team is going to if they're not going to. Severino pitches 18 innings a year.
Yeah, I know.
Nestor Cortez Jr. has a 4.91 ERA.
Okay, that's one start. I'm not letting you slander my boy Nestor.
He has a 4.91 ERA. That's just the bottom line on him.
You know who's going to save you guys? Elijah Dunham.
Maybe. Or he puts up a 30 WRC plus like Oswaldo Cabrera does. Here's
the one part that I really don't get. And like I really do hear you on this because people are always like, oh, well, why does my team play this crappy replacement level player or below replacement level player? Like I get it when you have one hole
again,
and you're like, all right, I don't want to compromise the 40 man. I don't want to make any crazy decisions. We just got to get by for now with the one hole. Like you do that. But when you're the Yankees right now and you have 3 to 4, maybe 5 guys in the lineup that you could DFA and no one's claiming. Like no one's touching those guys. No one even wants them. No one's trading cash considerations for them. How are you not trying to shake this thing up? Calling up a random prospect. Like I even know that who am I thinking of? Esteban Florial. He's struggled in every single big league stint so far. I don't care. Can't be worse than Aaron Hicks. Try it. Shit, man. Andre Chaparro, like he hits the shit out of the ball. Like I don't know if he's gonna hit at the big league level. He might not. Fuck it. He's not going to be worse than what you got right now. I do think it is literally the definition of insanity, Einstein's definition, what the Yankees are doing with this lineup. And I know it's early, but it's insane to be able to expect this lineup to magically do anything other than what it's doing right now, which is suck because the back half of it is worse than a lot of AAA lineups I watch on a daily basis.
I want to read you the lineup from that horrific loss where Domingo Germán basically threw an 8-inning shutout and they absolutely blew it in the 9th inning. So, Anthony Volpe leading off. He's been better, but he's your leadoff hitter. I would love him to be the 9th hitter right now. Anthony Rizzo, great. Gleyber Torres, remember those 5 stolen bases I was talking about and how awesome it was? Hasn't stolen one since. And that was like in the first week of our podcast this season. DJ LeMahieu, he's doing his job. He's hitting 260. Like, sure. Willie Calhoun is fucking horrible. Who's hitting 5th.
He has to have dirt for him. He has to have dirt. He has to have
dirt. Guess who pinch hit for him? Aaron Hicks. Oswald Peraza. Thanks a lot, prospect guy. He's fucking horrible. No, I'm just kidding. He's not. He's just off to
he's not ready. I guess he's not ready.
No, he's just off to a terrible start. He's hitting 188. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa plays center field and hits 188. He is so bad. He has like a 20 WRC plus. He's like 80% below league average hitter. Oswaldo Cabrera. Terrible. Like, after DJ LeMahieu, it's out. And then even Volpe, like, doesn't get on that much. And then you have Rizzo and Gleyber. Like, how does this team score?
Volpe should be in the 9 hole, right? Like, if the Yankees were at full strength and they were the Yankees, Volpe's in the 9 hole, and you got one of the most dynamic 9 hitters in baseball.
That's totally fine.
Who eventually will be your leadoff guy when he's
playing pretty good shortstop. Yeah. He's stealing bags. It's a great 9 hole guy.
Great 9 hole hitter until he kind of settles in, and then maybe next year that's your leadoff guy. I'll say though, Jake Bauers, I'm glad they brought him up. He might help.
Probably
Jake
not.
Bauers might help, but he should be playing more than any of those other guys.
Sure.
I don't care. So,
but then he's going to suck for a month, and then I'm just going to come back to it and be like, Jake Bauers has an 8 WRC plus.
Yeah. Well, it's fun times in New York, man. I think they're lucky to be where they're at right now. I'll tell you that. But I still think they're going to turn it around because then he gets Stanton back hopefully soon. Judge, obviously.
Not soon.
Judge.
Like 7 more weeks. Huh. And then like Rodon has another back thing. Like, it looks
the craziest
horrible.
part is I'm still not even worried about the Yankees. I swear I'm not. I know you are, but I'm not. Even though it looks really ugly.
And I'm a fan. And like, I'm saying I'm not worried about Mariners. And the Mariners fans are probably like, I'm so worried
Oh,
right
Mariners fans are probably like, what the fuck?
Like
Yeah,
they're
I get
they're
it.
12-16. The Yankees are 15-15. So like I get it. I'm overreacting. I know, but like
No,
sometimes
I
I
mean,
want to
dude, if I had
vent.
to stare that lineup in the face every day, I'd overreact too. I don't even think it's a total overreaction. I just think that the cream will rise to the top here.
Okay. So I'm redoing the against righties. Okay, I was wrong. In the last 2 weeks, they don't have an 8 WRC plus. I might have done it in the last week. But in the last 2 weeks, 54 WRC plus.
Still
Last.
ass. Yeah.
Last. Let's do it in the last week because that's might have been what I was looking at. So in the last week against right-handed pitchers, the New York Yankees have a 60 WRC plus. So I don't even know where I saw 8. But that's
Where'd you see
last.
eight?
The
It works
last.
though.
They are the
That was
worst offense against righties in the last 2 weeks and the last week. The
yeah.
worst.
Fair.
All right, next question. Okay. This is a more fun one. This will make me happier because this is a fun conversation. What is up with the Orioles call up chicken game? Jorge Mateo trade to a contender that needs an infielder allows them to
No.
call up guys and get a good return for Mateo and still have leftovers to trade for an established pitcher. In parentheses, Lord, I can't keep watching Dean Kramer. God bless him. As from at Ben Wickizer on Instagram. This is our last question.
I love the God bless him.
I know.
Like it's not personal. I just can't watch you pitch anymore.
It's hard.
But I love that. I love that.
So Jorge Mateo could possibly be traded to a contender. Now, I'm sure there's a bucket of Orioles fans be like, we cannot trade this man. He's like our best player. I mean, Adley Rutschman, obviously, but he has been maybe the best shortstop in Major League Baseball up to this point. But then I know there's an other set of Orioles fans and maybe people looking in from the outside saying, cash in now. A lot of big time teams need a middle infielder, most notably the Los Angeles Dodgers, and can give you a lot of pitchers in return. Because I know you're kind of grimaced and you're like, we can't trade Jorge Mateo from the Orioles. But how many young infield prospects do they have? Like, this is such a surplus of young, exciting players. And now you could make the argument, well, this is one of them, and he's amazing. So why
Yeah.
would you deal him? Why not deal a prospect that hasn't proven anything yet, who still has that shining light, right? That can be amazing and that could get you something like a major league ready player.
Yep.
So there's two sides of the coin. I'm interested to see what your side is.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of buying this Mateo breakout. This is a guy that like had the soft breakout last year, and in that year, 3 F4, 35 bags. We talk about guys that benefit from the new rules, like Mateo, definitely a guy that even if he was putting up the same numbers as last year, would have been improved because of the new rules and the stolen bases and limitations of shift with the defensive prowess that he has. But all of the offensive metrics, you're looking at his in-zone whiff rate, so his zone contact rate has jumped by about 7%. That is one of the bigger year-over-year changes you're going to see. His swinging strike rate has dropped by 5%, one of the bigger year-over-year changes you're going to see. His chase rate has dropped by 10%. Again, I'll say it again, one of the biggest year-over-year changes you're going to see. Walk rate up 2%, strikeout rate down 13%. I'm in. Like I'm buying it. This guy hits the ball hard. I don't think people realize that. It was the approach and mostly the approach and the swing and miss that kind of overlap with each other that was holding him back. I don't think you change this. I think, like, is he going to hit 350? Probably not. But this guy's going to be good. Like, this is a really good piece. I don't know why they sent down Joey Ortiz. I guess he was really just up there to fill in, which fucking sucks. Like, Adam Frazier, we said it from day one. Get that dude the fuck out of town. Like, he might be a great guy, but like, man, it's pissing me off because we got exciting players that have an opportunity to help the Orioles and that are just better. I would trade from the surplus of prospects because I mean, what Mateo, and I'm curious what you think. Like, what Mateo's doing now, like, I think this is something that he could do. I think he's a really good player, especially in today's game with the defense, with the speed. You could trade a couple of Joey Ortiz, Jordan Westberg, Connor Norby. I mean, we were just talking about the Dylan Cease thing. You could package several of those guys with Stowers, who just got recalled. Like, they're just bringing them up one at a time to plug in for a day and then sending them back down. Like, they've got
Makes no sense.
the best NFL practice squad out there. It's annoying. I get it. Like, you want to get them the consistent at bat. So it's good that they're getting those in triple instead of just sitting on the bench. But like, all of those guys are big league ready. Like, just about every single one of them are big league ready. And I'm not trading, the most valuable guy that for me this year besides Rutschman and Mateo, because I think the Orioles have their sights on the playoffs and they're trying to build something here. Trade Westberg, trade one or two of those guys, or just cut bait. See if you can dump Frazier's contract. Because like, I don't know why they did it. And I think they're starting to realize now with the leap of Mateo that they really don't need Frazier.
Yeah. I think this Orioles team is good. Like, I think their bullpen is very solid. I think their starting rotation obviously has its holes, but you see guys who are giving you good starts. Tyler Wells, Kyle Bradish, and Grayson Rodriguez.
Rodriguez is making the leap, man.
Making the leap, of course he is, because he's a stud and he's a freak and he throws 97 with a see you later changeup and other plus pitches like the slider. Those three are pitchers. Like, those three you can build around, but you have two more spots that you need to fill. And yes, Jorge Mateo, a part of me says this is a perfect time to cash in on him because he's unbelievable right now. But maybe he might just be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he might be a perfect player for the new rules. Bigger bases, no more shift, hitting the ball on the ground, hitting it hard, finding the hole, and playing good defense. Like, that might just be what he is. Former Yankee, by the way. Thanks a lot. Jorge Mateo, stud. All right? I don't think you trade him because you have all these guys and you hope they can be Jorge Mateo. That's the goal. Like, you hope they can all be what Jorge Mateo is right now. And if you're playing for right now, trade those guys who the Orioles don't even feel can take playing time over Adam Frazier. Now, do we agree with them? Absolutely not. Is that the reality of the situation as we sit here today, Orioles fans? Yes. So if I'm an Orioles fan, I want us to trade from our surplus of infield prospects or outfield prospects in order to get those starting pitchers, or get a big time bat in the outfield, because they have good outfielders, but a lot of them are, defensive guys. And like, they do hit. Like Austin Hayes, I know is hitting. Cedric Mullins, I know is good, but you could get another big bopper. Like, it's not just in the infield, or excuse me, it's not just in the starting rotation. Like, you could go get another big time bat too. So I wouldn't limit yourself to just pitching, and you have all the assets to do it. Like, they could easily make a package for Dylan Cease and not really feel it. And then also get a big time bat while getting Dylan Cease. The reason why we don't often put them in there is because they don't fucking do it. They just don't do it. Like, we keep talking about it, and I'm just wasting my breath over here.
No, it's actually exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Ramon Arias, would you trade him?
Yes.
So that's a guy that has value.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 124 WRC plus. He's played third base for them. He can play second. You can move him all over a little bit.
Like, you have Gunner.
And he's under control until 2027. So
That's
he might not be as valuable as Mateo right now, but you package him with a couple other prospects, you can get a lot of good players. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't touch Mateo, especially when you have the context of the chase rates, the zone contact. Like, the underlying metrics look really good. I'm buying it. So if I'm them, I'm looking to make that move with Arias and then a couple of those prospects, and you can get a lot of good players with that. You can get plenty of good players. The craziest part is they could just swap a mid-level prospect in a month or two for Giolito, and that probably upgrades the back end of their rotation. Like, that, I would just love for them to do something. They're going to get John Means back, so I would rather not go for the 3 or 4 type starter. Go get a stud. Go get somebody impactful. And I think they will. Like, I really do think that this is finally going to be the year. If they're seeing how they're doing, they're hanging around the top of the division, and they're really dealing with the crunch now. They're going to have a 40-man crunch. They already have the active roster crunch. They're having to send guys back and forth all the time. I hope they finally do it. But to answer the question, only guy from this active team that I'm trading is, in the infield at least, is Arias. And then from the team in general, like you talked about being able to upgrade, how about moving on from Santander? Santander is, you got one more year of control. But he's been brutal. And
Yeah.
again, you can find a corner outfielder who can make a big difference as well. So that's a spot where they could upgrade. Or how about just playing Kyle Stowers more instead of Santander? Like, at what point do we look at Santander and his negative 0.3 F4 and 77 WRC plus and say, hey, I think maybe we can upgrade over this right now. I know he had a decent year last year, 33 homers, but doesn't get on base, pretty aggressive. I think they could upgrade in a lot of different ways, and they're already good.
And that'll do it for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. That was the mailbag. Again, really want to thank you guys for leaving all those questions on social. We're getting more and more questions every single time we post. We're so glad that you guys enjoy these episodes. And if you have enjoyed this episode, we'd greatly appreciate you rating and review 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit us with a like, comment if we said anything crazy, or if you agree, or whatever you want, because we like to read the comments for next episodes, and hit that subscribe button, of course, on YouTube. Get yourself some Just Baseball merch. Best way to support the podcast. I'm rocking a hat. Arm's rocking a hat. Look how handsome we look. Look how handsome we look.
It's all the hat.
It's all the hat. And we want you to look handsome too, or beautiful, whatever. Get yourself some Just Baseball merch. It's in the podcast description. And of course, we are sponsored here by BetMGM. Use code JBFans. That's JBFANS. Wager $10 on any money line in the MLB. Once that bet is settled, you will see up to $100, possibly $200, depending on your state, of bonus bets in your account. If you want to make some, Hail Mary bets on divisions, if you think that the Cardinals still got a shot, get your free money in order to do so it's no skin off your back, right? Make sure to use the King of Sportsbooks. We greatly appreciate it. And with that, thank you, everybody.